life's feeling a little bit chaotic at the moment, I want to introduce you to a technique that will hopefully give you some clarity and help you to move through your day and your life with purpose. We're all on a journey that is our lives. But we often make the mistake of thinking that that's one long journey, when it's not. It's actually made up of hundreds of thousands of micro journeys. We also make the mistake of thinking that, much like this path here, those journeys are linear, they're straight, they're predictable, and that we can plan for them. But that's not the case. Life is constantly changing, life is constantly evolving. These journeys will change. So we can't try and force them to be straight, to be predictable. And if you're trying to do that, that's one of the reasons why your life may feel a bit chaotic at the moment. Because you're trying to stick to the path when life wants you to go in another direction. So if that's you, I want you to start thinking like a designer and start changing things. You may not realize it, but what a designer does, regardless of whether they're a graphic designer, a product designer, a UX designer, whatever, is they actually design journeys for people. They design the journey that you'll have while using a product, the journey you'll have while looking at a product. They think of how the user will interact, the journey that they will be on whilst they're interacting with that experience or that product. And they do this by focusing on the moments in between, the waypoints. So instead of trying to design the path from point A to point B, they'll design point A and point B. And this is a really interesting and important tip for you to use in the redesigning of your life. Because it's in those waypoints, at those moments between those micro journeys, that things often fall apart.
And the reason that this happens is because our lives are chaotic. Our lives look a little bit like this diagram. Hundreds of thousands of journeys, stopping, starting, crossing over, big journeys, little journeys. We're going through so many journeys. We're living so many journeys at once. And that's fine. That's part of the beautiful chaos that is life. But if you're not aware, if you're not living your life with presence, it can be very easy to become disconnected, to drift between the journeys, never ever present in one single journey. And that's why the Waypoint concept is so helpful, because it can help to return presence to your life and therefore design your life with more intention so that you can create the life that you want to live. Let me give you an example. A common journey that we all go through each and every day is the journey of your morning. Now, that journey is broken up into micro journeys again. You wake up, you brush your teeth, you get a drink of water, you check your phone. All of those little activities are small micro journeys. The journey of you waking up and then getting out of bed is a small micro journey. And in between those micro journeys is a gate. And in those moments, if we're not going from one to the other, from one journey to the next with intention, as we go through that gate, it can become very easy for our brain to shift from the journey of our mornings to another journey. And perhaps in our example, you're conscious about something that's going to happen later in that day at work. So the journey of your morning is part of a bigger journey about this concern about what's happening at work. So you're going through these gates in your morning journey and you're not doing them with intention. So all of a sudden you go through one gate and you start to think about work. And then you're no longer present in your morning. You're disconnected. You perhaps wake up later or think later, oh, I don't remember what happened this morning, because you started to drift. You started to let yourself be waylaid by not being conscious of those moments between the micro journeys that you're on. And that's why the concept of wayfinding is so important, particularly in design, because you want to make sure you reconnect with the person as they step from one portion of the journey, one micro journey to the next. You want to make sure they reconnect so that they're present in that moment. Let me give you a really obvious example that I hope will bring it home. Imagine you're in an airport or a big shopping mall and you need to go to the bathroom. So you look around for a sign and you spot the sign. You follow the arrow. You walk down a long corridor perhaps. And at the end of the corridor, you reach a cross section. There will be another sign at that point showing you where you need to go next for that bathroom. Because at that moment, at that point, you could become lost, you could drift. So the sign is placed there by the people who have designed the space to ensure you continue on the journey that you need to go on to find the bathroom. The same thing happens in our life, except those moments, those breaks in between the journeys happen far more randomly. So we need to be conscious of the fact as we step from one to the next, as we step from one micro journey to the next, about the actual physical process of doing so, of going through that gate and remaining engaged in the journey that you're on. So if it is that you're on the journey of your morning, remaining focused, and if it is that you need to start thinking about that thing that's happening later in the day, stop and go through a doorway with intention to take you to that other journey so that you can be fully aware of it. Because if you're not, and if you're trying to maintain all of these journeys at once, you're never going to be present in any one of them. You're always going to be disconnected. That's why this waypoint concept is so important. Start to be aware of the moments in between journeys. Now, you don't necessarily have to break it down to really micro moments, like going from your bed to the bathroom. Start with bigger ones, like returning home from being at work. This is a really important one for me. I would always take a moment before I come through the door, leave behind the work, leave behind whatever was worrying me or concerning me during the day, because I know when I step into that next journey, the journey of me being a dad and being at home, I need to be present for that. I can't be drifting. I can't be having that other journey coming across and competing for my attention. And you can do this in other ways too. You can do that in physical ways. Often when I'm stepping away from my desk at the end of the day, I put my palms on the desk. I physically feel the desk as a way to center myself and say to myself, you're moving away from this journey now. You're moving into the next journey. A different part of you is required. And I found that to be really helpful in making my way through my day with presence and intention. If you take one thing away from today's video, let it be this. Your life changes when your transitions become intentional. You start to move through your life, to move through the journeys of your life with intention and connection when you're aware of these moments in between, when you're aware of these gates, when you can become distracted, when you can shift quite easily from one journey to another.
So hopefully that techniques give you some insight into how you can go about redesigning your life. By focusing on these waypoints, you will make a fundamental change in how those journeys link together. And you will find that day by day, you'll start to get more clarity and more connection. I promise you. I hope this has been useful, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.